In life, it seems like some people were just built to do a certain job. When you watch Michael Jordan or Steph Curry play basketball, it's hard to imagine them doing anything else. When you watch someone speedrun Super Mario 64, it's as if the game was designed to break in all the right ways. Others aren't as lucky. They have to work tirelessly, grinding each and every day for every inch they gain. Unfortunately, some people invest their effort into things they're seemingly designed specifically not to do. William McGonagall is a Scottish poet born in 1825. Over the course of his career, he wrote over 200 poems. McGonagall is notable for being the worst poet ever. He was frequently invited to recite his poems solely because listeners found them to be so bad it was comical. No poem speaks to this like his 1880 piece titled The Tay Bridge Disaster. The poet recounts a stormy December eve in Dundee, Scotland. On that night, a strong wind caused the Tay Bridge to collapse, plunging a passenger train and its 75 riders into the icy water below where each would perish. While a quick look at the bridge makes this event feel less than shocking, McGonagall was clearly moved. The opening stanza of the poem goes, "Beautiful railway bridge of the Suvri Tay, alas, I'm very sorry to say that 90 lives have been taken away on the last Sabbath day of 1879, which will be remembered for a very long time." Ignoring the fact that McGonagall got the number of deaths wrong, it doesn't take long to notice that this just isn't a good poem. The rhymes feel forced, the lines are an inconsistent length while all still being too long, and reading it with any rhythm is awful. The poem has been so thoroughly ridiculed that it's often regarded as the worst poem ever written. It would be hardly surprising to find a better poem written in the comments section of a YouTube video. And yet despite this mockery, despite the obvious lack of skill, William McGonagall would keep writing. Now, I want you to stop and think of a speedrun. Odds are, you're thinking of some platformer from the 90s or 2000s, and that makes sense. These games usually have fluid movement, cool level design, and clearly laid out ways to play the game that serve as the basis of the most popular speedruns. While many of these games seem like they were designed for speedrunning, there exists another group that are nearly unspeedrunnable. These are games that are designed with the intention of being slow, with the lack of player control, and with RNG as the focus. And yet, despite the seeming futility of the task, many of these unspeedrunnables have developed communities and dedicated runners of their own. If you go and search speedrunning on YouTube, odds are your results will be filled with Minecraft and Mario games. These games have such a stranglehold over speedrunning content, it only makes sense that they're among the most popular speedruns. You may be surprised to learn though that neither is the most popular speedrun, and it isn't even close. Subway Surfers is an endless runner released on mobile devices in May of 2012. Since its release, Subway Surfers has been downloaded more than 3 billion times, making it the most played game in the world by far. As it stands, it's also the most popular speedrun game ever, with nearly 50,000 runners. That's more than the next 7 most popular speedruns combined. It wasn't always like this though. Back in the beginning of 2022, Subway Surfers had less than 400 runners and failed to crack even the top 100 most speedrun games. Over the course of the next year, it would undergo an unprecedented explosion in popularity from an unlikely source. A quick glance at the leaderboard will reveal the nearly universal presence of Brazilian players. While seeing certain countries dominate the leaderboards isn't too uncommon, this time is a little different. Lexa KT is a TikToker from Brazil who describes herself as your #1 source on Brazil's achievements in the gaming world. She began by making Minecraft pixel art videos in March of 2021 before beginning to report on Brazilian speedrunning achievements in September. She would highlight games where Brazilians dominated the leaderboards, showcasing games like God of War, Mortal Kombat, and Resident Evil 4. She made her first video on Subway Surfers in November and has made dozens since that point, receiving tens of millions of views. As she continued to make these videos, more and more Brazilians submitted runs to the leaderboards, inflating them beyond even the Minecraft boom that was spearheaded by massive content creators like Dream and XQC. The only issue is, how do people speedrun a game that doesn't end? Some of Subway Surfers' categories are based around obtaining a certain number of coins or points as quickly as possible. For instance, in the game's 100 coins category, the world record sits at a time of 14 seconds 233 milliseconds and has over 40 runs within a second of it. Additionally, while working on this video, Subway Surfers added a new category, Any%. The goal of Any% is to unlock a 30x multiplier as quickly as possible. 30x is the highest multiplier that can be permanently unlocked in the game, making it a measurable endpoint for the game. For Subway Surfers, the most popular game on the site, to only just be adding Any% naturally raises questions as to what was being played prior though. To this point, the most popular category in the game has been no coins, with the goal being to go as long as possible without collecting any coins. Rather than trying to play the game quickly, it shifts the focus to surviving. With nearly 18,000 runners, the no coins category alone would be the most popular game of speedrun.com, over 5,000 more runners than Minecraft. The world record in this category stands at 28 minutes, 8 seconds, 817 milliseconds, nearly a full 10 minutes longer than the second place time. In many ways, Subway Surfers doesn't fit into the mold of what a speedrun is. It doesn't have an end, it doesn't have defined objectives, and the most popular category is about being slow rather than fast. Despite this, a unique blend of nationalism and virality has allowed it to become the most popular game in all of speedrunning, with hardly anyone noticing. While games like Subway Surfers rely on quick gameplay, Clash of Clans is the opposite. Clash of Clans is a strategy game built entirely around waiting. If you want resources to level up your base, you can either wait for resources to generate, or you can attack another person's base and steal theirs. In order to attack someone else's base though, you need to wait for troops to train. Once you've acquired the resources you need, you can upgrade part of your base and then wait for it to finish building. In a 4-year-old Reddit post that's certainly outdated, it was calculated that in order to fully upgrade a base, a player would need to spend 3 years and 92 days solely on the timed upgrades, which doesn't factor in the time required to obtain the resources. In other words, speedrunning is largely the antithesis of what Clash of Clans is designed to be. This hasn't stopped runners from trying though. While the game ends up being very tedious as you progress, it's manageable at the first few levels. The game's most popular category is Town Hall Level 2 any percent. In Clash of Clans, the Town Hall is the base's central building. Upgrading it unlocks new buildings for the player, as well as higher levels for existing buildings. Town Hall Level 2 any percent consists primarily of the player completing the tutorial before upgrading the Town Hall using gems, the game's currency for purchase. Leaderboard rules prevent players from buying more gems, but it does allow the use of the limited number the game provides you when you start a profile, as well as any you receive from clearing debris around the base. As a result of this, Town Hall any percent runs go up to Town Hall 5, as after that point the player is out of gems to use, and Town Hall 6 requires over 4 days to build. In sharp contrast to this, the world record for Town Hall Level 2 any percent currently sits at a time of 57 seconds 200 milliseconds, showcasing how dramatically the time invested in Clash of Clans ramps up. While a game of Monopoly was designed to last for 45 minutes, they often last much longer. The idea of speedrunning a board game is already a little off. Video game adaptations of board games are always a bit clunky. The time spent setting up the game is traded for animations that usually take much longer than a person moving their piece. Speedrunning Monopoly in particular seems incongruent. A player wins once all other players have been bankrupt. The way someone usually goes bankrupt is by landing on someone else's properties, necessitating they pay rent. While this is easy enough, players start with a lot of money, and rent doesn't cost all that much in the beginning, meaning that it will usually stretch into the endgame. While it seems like the stage is set for a long speedrun, this actually isn't the case. The NES port of Monopoly world record sits at 36 seconds 673 milliseconds, held by Killdragon. The run begins by setting up a 2-player game versus the computer. The NES port features 8 different NPCs to play against, with Ollie being described as a good-natured man who just can't seem to hold on to his money, making him the easiest computer to beat. From here, the player is randomly given the chance to roll first or second. If the player rolls second, the run is immediately dead. The first roll a player has to get is a 6, which has a 5 out of 36 probability on any given roll. For the strategy used in the world record though, the player is unable to roll doubles, meaning that they only have a 4 in 36 chance due to a 3-3 roll not being viable. This lands the player on Oriental Avenue, but immediately before buying, the player wants to pause the game and switch the bot from relax to hurry. This causes the computer to play at a faster pace. Once this is done, they're able to buy the property. Ollie can then roll either an 8 or a 9, which both have a 4 in 36 chance of rolling due to rolling doubles still being slow. Depending on what Ollie rolls, he will either land on Vermont or Connecticut Avenue, which he will then buy. The player now needs to either roll a 2 if Ollie rolled a 9, or a 3 if he rolled an 8, and purchase the last of the light blue properties. Immediately before landing on the last light blue though, the player trades with Ollie for his light blue. Since the player does not have 2 light blues already, Ollie does not realize he's giving away a full set, making the trade less expensive to push through. Once the trade is complete, the player buys the final property and completes the set. Rather than building houses or anything on the set though, the player immediately mortgages all 3 of the properties. When a property is mortgaged, the player receives a lump sum of cash in exchange for the property no longer collecting rent. In order to unmortgage the property, the player must pay more money than they received for mortgaging it. From here, the player offers a trade to Ollie. In exchange for all of Ollie's money, the player will give him all of their light blue properties. Ollie, who likes to splurge for a big night out on the town, eagerly accepts the deal. Ollie then promptly files for bankruptcy as he must pay 10% interest on the mortgage of the properties he just received. Having traded away every penny to his name, Ollie concedes and the player wins with a time of 36 seconds 673 milliseconds. All in, the odds of getting a run with a viable roll pattern is 1 in 972, or just over 0.1%. Another iconic board game with a notable speedrun is Clue. Clue is a murder mystery game in which the players are supposed to gather information from each other in order to solve the mystery. It's necessary to identify who the killer is, where the crime was committed, and what weapon they used to do the deed. In total, there are 6 possible killers, 6 possible weapons, and 9 possible locations, making for 324 possible combinations. While a game of Clue is supposed to take roughly an hour, the speedrun is only 583 milliseconds. The player begins the run by moving the cursor to the bottom right hand corner of the screen and opening the accusations menu. From here, the player must randomly select a person, weapon, and location as quickly as possible. Since it's a blind shot in the dark to begin with, what they select doesn't technically matter. The optimal selections though are that the crime was committed by Mrs. Peacock in the library with the rope. The reason this is optimal is due to the accuse button being in the bottom left of the accusations menu. Since it's necessary to press the button as quickly as possible, the player needs to have their cursor over it when it comes up. Due to Mrs. Peacock being between the 2 buttons, and both the rope and library overlap with the accuse button, it's optimal to select these options. Of all RNG-laden speedruns though, the short length of an attempt makes the utter randomness of Clue more bearable. If each attempt takes 15 seconds, a viable run would be expected to happen every hour or 2, making the time invested to get a solid run manageable. One of the weirdest metas in speedrunning history was when sharpening pencils shook the scene. Inspired by a meme speedruns video by EasyScape, popular YouTuber Smallant would become the world record holder in a video that has been viewed more than 12 million times. IRL pencil sharpening speedrunning is an offshoot of a game called Pencil Sharpening Simulator, or PSS. PSS was released in 2015, and the gameplay is mostly what you'd expect, with the addition of a drill to speed up sharpening. Categories are divided between drill and drillless, and features incremental increases in the number of pencils sharpened, with the fastest category being 10 pencils drill, clocking in at 3 minutes 50 seconds, and the longest completed category being 1000 pencils drillless at a time of 19 hours 27 minutes 18 seconds. A leaderboard does exist for 1500 pencils drillless, but at the time of recording this, no runs have been submitted. While Pencil Sharpening Simulator is mindless and mind-numbing, the IRL categories are a little more interesting. Much like the simulator, the boards are split by drill usage and pencil count, but only 1 and 10 pencil categories exist. While it may seem trivial, the level of depth to pencil sharpening speedrunning is surprising. Runners need to be conscious of every detail. The shape of the pencil is incredibly important. Nearly all runners use a polygonal pencil, as this allows for an easier grip while spinning. Getting pencils with too hard of wood will cause a sharpener's blade to dull, but getting too soft of pencils can cause it to clog. Some sharpeners will also take larger chunks out of the pencil, causing them to cut much faster than the ones that cut finer amounts. One of the biggest issues that a runner can face is when their sharpener clogs. If the tip of the pencil breaks off while sharpening, it may get lodged between the teeth of the sharpener, preventing the pencil from fully inserting and making it unusable. None of this speaks to the technique used by runners though. There are 2 popular strategies used, the foot and the knees. The leaderboard's rules ban the use of mounted sharpeners, meaning that runners need to find a way to both sharpen the pencil while still holding onto the sharpener. With only 2 hands to do the task, runners began to use 2 distinct strategies to aid in their endeavor. The foot strategy has runners sandwiching the sharpener between their feet. This has the advantage of providing a strong grip on the sharpener at the expense of an awkward sitting position. The other strategy has runners wedging the sharpener between their knees. This allows for a more natural sitting position, but at the expense of less contact, leading to runners needing to weigh the pros and cons of each to decide what is best for them. The 10 pencil drillless category stands at a time of 2 minutes 3 seconds 500 milliseconds by Lightfork. Lightfork made use of a homemade sharpener for his run. The sharpener features a mounted razor, which he claims to give him a longer blade for cutting. While his time is great, each of the top 3 runs have the same message: sub 2 soon. Despite this, the world record has stood since August of 2021, with no run since coming close. A look at the 1 pencil drillless category suggests that the time should be achievable. The record there stands at 4 seconds 440 milliseconds. While this doesn't account for the time required to change pencils after sharpening, the margin exists for sub 2 to be realistic. On the drill side of the leaderboard, times are, as expected, significantly lower. The 1 pencil drill category features a world record of 2 seconds 751 milliseconds, while the 10 pencil drill category sits at 57 seconds 890 milliseconds, both around 2 seconds faster than the drillless counterpart. All in, pencil sharpening speedruns are an exercise in the absurdity of speedrunning. What started as a meme speedrun of a meme game has circled back to become one of the most popular pieces of speedrunning content the internet has seen. While pencil sharpening was a brief sensation, few games have captivated the internet like Five Nights at Freddy's. Released in 2014 by Scott Cawthon, Five Nights at Freddy's has since spawned an entire franchise of games, books, and fandoms, as well as been the most popular series on some of YouTube's largest channels. While the franchise is nothing short of a phenomenon, its speedruns leave much to be desired. The gameplay for most of the games revolves around surviving a total of 5 nights in the pizzeria while animatronic characters roam the halls and threaten the character's safety. The player has very little input into anything that happens in the game. They can't move to avoid animatronics, but instead need to close doors or place lures to shoot them away. Additionally, the games are basically auto-scrollers. Each night lasts from midnight to 6 AM, with no way to speed up how long each hour is. Particularly in FNAF 1, very few skips exist. The two most notable tricks in any percent are newspaper skip and fade skip, neither of which save active game time. When a new game of FNAF is started, a newspaper with the help wanted ad appears on screen for a few seconds. By either clicking the continue game button and then the new game button, or by rapidly clicking just the new game button, the game will skip past the newspaper transition, saving a few seconds. The other major trick skips the fade transitions in the game, saving a bit of time throughout the run. The trick is performed by pressing Alt and F4 and works in all FNAF games between the first and FNAF World, which is the 5th in the series. It also runs the obvious risk of closing the game. As of right now, the world record for FNAF 1 any percent on PC stands at 45 minutes, 23 seconds, 900 milliseconds. Of the 3 most recent world records, they are separated by a span of 80 milliseconds, which truly underlines the static nature of this speedrun. As FNAF has experimented with its gameplay though, a few of the games have been more conducive to speedrunning. Most notable of these is Security Breach. Security Breach is the first FNAF game to have a fully controllable free-roaming character and map to explore. Upon release, the game was a buggy mess. While this is certainly unfortunate for a casual playthrough, buggy mess is code word for speedrunner's dream. The game was easy to clip through, momentum could be preserved, and sequence breaks were hard to avoid even casually. The multitude of endings also allows for a large number of sensible categories, creating variety without it feeling forced. Cookie Clicker truly epitomizes a genre of gaming. Idle games are designed to be slow. You're meant to walk away from them, let your resources build up, and then splurge them away as you repeat the process for incremental gains. In some respects, it makes for a sensible speedrun. The speedrun to reach 1 million cookies quickly requires quite a lot of skill, as a lot of the time is based on how quickly a runner can click. The record for this currently sits at a time of 6 minutes 50 seconds, half a minute faster than second. Where the speedruns start to make less sense is in a category known as True Never Click. True Never Click is a secret achievement in the game that is awarded when a player has generated 1 million cookies without ever clicking the big one. This can be accomplished through the use of golden cookies. Golden cookies are an RNG spawn that occur every 5 to 15 minutes, with an average spawn occurring around 7.5 minutes. In order to complete a True Never Click run, the player needs to get 2 golden cookies to spawn as quickly as possible, with each giving the lucky effect. Lucky gives the player a lump sum of cookies proportional to the number they're producing per second and how many they have in their bank, plus 13. Since the runner has 0 for both those metrics, they get plus 13. The cheapest idle production upgrade costs 15 cookies though, meaning that they have to get lucky twice in a row. There's a 42.2% chance that a golden cookie is lucky, meaning that roughly 1 in 6 attempts will get the correct pattern to even start producing idly. A look at the leaderboard shows a time of 35 minutes 47 seconds in the world record held by Philex. 2 spots below is a friendly face from Monopoly who also happens to be a former world record holder of True Never Click. Watching the world record shows how much of a mess True Never Click is though. Viewers are greeted with 20 instances of the game running all at the same time. With the game not being very intensive for a computer to run, having multiple instances of the game maximizes the possibility that an attempt with good RNG will happen. Upon starting the timer, Philex begins to reset each instance of the game and then waits. Around the 6 minute 40 second mark, the instance in the top left corner spawns the first golden cookie and it's lucky. This is 100 seconds off of when they can technically begin spawning, but there's still less than a 10% chance that one will have spawned at this point. None of the other instances have very fast spawns, leading Philex to reset them all around 7 minutes 20 seconds in. At the 14 minute mark, top left has its second cookie spawn, and it comes up lucky again. This spawn is about 40 seconds slower than the first one, but there are still less than coin flip odds for it to have spawned already. At this point, the attempt has truly begun, as Philex has bought another cursor, which produces 0.1 cookies per second. By the 20 minute mark, this rate has quadrupled to 0.4 per second, just in time for the third golden cookie to spawn, which gives the frenzy effect. For the next 77 seconds, passive cookie production is 7 times faster, meaning Philex is temporarily making 2.8 per second. By the time the ability expires, Philex has gotten enough upgrades that his unboosted production rate is 8.6 per second, over 20 times more than prior to the golden cookie. When the next cookie spawns at 27:45, Philex is producing nearly 90 per second, which balloons to about 630 as he gets another frenzy cookie. At the 29 minute mark, Philex has closed out the last alternate instance and put his full concentration into one's bakery. As the 30 minute mark approaches, a total 197,000 cookies have been baked, putting him at 20% of his goal and increasing rapidly. Once his last golden cookie spawns at 35 minutes 22 seconds, he has just crossed 615,000. 25 seconds later, the run is over as the game awards him the True Never Click achievement. Going back to William McGonagall for a moment, to call him a bad poet truly understates what he is. It's been nearly 200 years since he was born, and people still talk about just how awful he was at poetry. While I can't imagine this is how anyone would choose to be remembered, there's still something commendable about it. He wasn't just a bad poet, William McGonagall was the best bad poet. Not every game is made to be speedrun. Runners can push and push, seeking out any exploit, any way to make the game faster, only to come up empty-handed. While this may make the game seem trivial to some, it's pushing a game past any imaginable bounds that is the most indelible quality universal to speedrunners. Now, if you've made it this far and you've enjoyed the video, consider speedrunning hitting that subscribe button. It does a ton to help the video out, and with all the effort that's put into making these videos, it's rewarding to see when people are enjoying them. Before we go though, there's one last speedrun I want to cover. The Stanley Parable is truly a special game. Most speedruns of this game revolve around completing a certain number of these endings, but a quick look at the leaderboard shows a lack of a 100% category. While all the endings are quick enough to finish, its achievements are another story. The Stanley Parable has 10 achievements. In order of obtainment, they are Welcome Back, Achievement, Unachievable, You Can't Jump, Click on Door 435 times, 88888888888888888. I think that's 16-8. Beat the game, speedrun, commitment, and go outside. When starting a run, it's critical to check your clock. If the time is anything other than 11:59 PM on a Monday night, reset and try again. With enough attempts, you'll get the timing down. After you boot up the game, you must immediately quit. From here, boot up the game again. If you did it correctly, you should get the Welcome Back achievement, which is given for playing the game twice. After this, you need to go into the menu and turn achievements on. This will give you the achievement, which is achieved by enabling achievements. At this point, you should have gone into the game's files before you started your run and pasted bindx_u into the config.cfg file. If done correctly, you can press the X key to receive the unachievable achievement. Quickly follow this up by pressing the spacebar several times. After a few failed attempts, the game will give you the You Can't Jump achievement. This is where the achievements really start to ramp up though. In order to get Click on Door 430 5 times, you need to click on Door 430 5 times, then 20 times, then 50 times, then Door 417 20 times, Door 437 3 times, Door 415 10 times, back to Door 437, click the copy machine, back to Door 417, then climb onto 419's desk, over to Door 416, back to the copy machine, and then finally click on Door 430 5 times. Now it's time to actually finish the game. By following the narrator's instructions, the player goes down the freedom path, which is considered beating the game. Along the way, Stanley has to interact with the keypad in his boss's office. By pressing the number 8 into the keypad 8 times, we unlock the 16-8s achievement. Continuing down the path unlocks the Beat the Game achievement, but we're not done yet. Conveniently, the game has a speedrunning achievement for beating this ending in under 4 minutes 22 seconds, requiring the player to go through the freedom ending again, but faster. 8 out of the 10 achievements, and nothing seems to be too hard, but this is where they start to get weird. Remember back to needing to start the run at 11:59 PM on a Monday night? Well, the commitment achievement requires you to play the Stanley Parable for the entirety of Tuesday, or at least have it running in the background. Once these 24 hours are up, you need to immediately quit the game and wait. The final achievement, Go Outside, requires you not play the game for 5 years. Once these 5 years are up, you can boot up the Stanley Parable, collect your achievement, and stop your timer with the run clocking in somewhere around 43,800 hours and 1 minute if you get good leap year RNG. The next time an optimal run can be performed is between March 1st, 2096 and February 28th, 2099, as the year 2100 is not a leap year. As we speak, YouTuber Davey Gunface is in the middle of his attempt and on world record pace, with an estimated finish in October of 2026, though his run failed to account for good leap year alignment. If this run is too short for you, the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe All Achievement Speedrun features Super Go Outside, which requires the player from not playing the game for 10 years, virtually doubling the runtime of the category.